The NFL isn't built on caution, it's built on risk, spectacle, and those few bold decisions that alter history forever, and that's why Andrew Berry's move to elevate Shedeur Sanders over Dillon Gabriel doesn't feel like a routine quarterback shuffle, it feels like a gamble written in neon, a franchise daring fate to finally side with Cleveland. Because if you know this city, you know the scars. You know the quarterback carousel that spun so fast for so long it left fans with whiplash, from Tim Couch to Johnny Manziel to Baker Mayfield. The Browns have auditioned more next guys than Hollywood has Spider-Man reboots, and every time hope flickered only to sputter out. But this feels different, because Sanders isn't just another audition, he's a chance to finally rewrite the cursed script and give Cleveland the stability it's been chasing for decades. If you're into the real story, the one with all the messy twists they never show on highlight reels, hit that subscribe button. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns quarterback chaos unfolds, you definitely want to stay locked in. Let's be honest about Dillon Gabriel, he's not a bad quarterback. In fact, he's the type most franchises would happily settle for: experienced, mature, steady hands, the guy who won't throw the back-breaking interception, who can run the offense without panic, who gives you a safe floor in a league that punishes mistakes. But here's the thing, floors don't sell hope. Floors don't make stadiums roar or ignite belief in a cursed fan base. Shedeur Sanders does. That's what Andrew Berry saw when he pulled the trigger. Sanders isn't just a prospect, he's a cultural spark plug, the kind of quarterback who doesn't merely play the position but defines it, who carries swagger, energy, and the belief that maybe, just maybe, this is the season Cleveland stops surviving and finally starts rewriting history. When Shedeur Sanders walks into a room, the atmosphere shifts, and when he jogs onto the field, you feel it in your chest. That's not arrogance, that's presence. And presence is exactly what Cleveland has been missing. For years, the Browns have had quarterbacks, but they haven't had faces, leaders who didn't just run the playbook but made the franchise feel alive. Shedeur is that face. Yes, he carries the weight of being Deion Sanders' son, but he's carved his own path. In college, behind offensive lines that collapsed more often than they held, he never crumbled. He absorbed hit after hit, yet stood tall, delivering throws with surgical precision. That kind of resilience is Cleveland's DNA, tough, relentless, unshaken. Still, the critics circle. They say it's too soon, that Shedeur hasn't proven himself against NFL defenses, that Dillon Gabriel's experience should win out, that the Browns are risking fragile momentum on a rookie. But that's the essence of this gamble. Cleveland isn't just chasing stability anymore, they're daring to chase greatness. And the critics aren't entirely wrong, the risk is obvious. If Shedeur Sanders stumbles, if the spotlight proves too heavy, Cleveland could find itself spiraling into the same old nightmare. But what those critics miss is this: the Browns don't have the luxury of playing it safe anymore. Safe has shackled this franchise to mediocrity. Safe has delivered seasons that begin with cautious optimism and end in dead silence. At some point, you have to embrace chaos. You have to bet it all on upside. And Shedeur Sanders is upside personified. Just look at the receipts: over 72% completions, more than 30 touchdowns, 4,000 plus yards, all while playing behind a line that collapsed almost every snap. Those numbers don't belong to a survivor, they belong to a quarterback who thrives under fire. Now layer in the branding, the SS Crown logo, the viral highlights that dominate social media, the following that stretches from Gen Z kids in Europe to die-hard fans in Cleveland suburbs. Shedeur isn't just a quarterback, he's a movement. He's turning the Browns into more than a football team, he's turning them into a cultural force. And make no mistake, the locker room feels it too. Players talk. They see how Shedeur Sanders carries himself in practice, how he shakes off mistakes, how he never flinches when the pressure spikes. He moves like a veteran, like someone who's been preparing for this moment his whole life, and that kind of energy is contagious. When your quarterback believes, you believe, and Cleveland hasn't had that in years. But the flip side is brutal. If this gamble fails, if Shedeur struggles to adjust, if the interceptions pile up and the offense sputters, the weight of disappointment could crush the franchise. Andrew Berry will be roasted in headlines, fans will mutter that Gabriel should have been the guy, and the curse of the Cleveland quarterback carousel will rear its ugly head again. That's the reality of boldness, it's a double-edged sword. The same blade that can carve your path to glory can just as easily slice you back into misery. Berry knows that better than anyone, and that's why this decision says so much about Cleveland right now. They're tired of settling, tired of playing it safe. They're ready to roll the dice on greatness, because imagine, just for a moment, what it would mean if this actually works. Imagine Shedeur Sanders stepping onto the field in Week 1 and delivering a statement drive. Picture him standing tall in the pocket, shrugging off blitzes, firing lasers down the sideline, and the dog pound erupting, not with cautious optimism, but with full-throated belief that maybe, finally, this is the quarterback who can break the curse. Overnight, the narrative flips. Cleveland wouldn't just be that franchise that never gets it right, they'd be the franchise that dared and won. Shedeur wouldn't just become the face of the Browns, he'd become a national phenomenon, highlight reels, magazine covers, viral moments, the kind of buzz that transforms a quarterback into a cultural icon. That's the upside Andrew Berry sees, the reason he rolled the dice. Because the NFL doesn't reward timidity, it rewards courage. Look at the teams that broke through. Kansas City gambling on Patrick Mahomes when Alex Smith was still good enough. Buffalo handing Josh Allen the keys when critics mocked his accuracy. Cincinnati pushing all in on Joe Burrow after a brutal injury. Those franchises dared, and they reaped greatness. Cleveland is betting Shedeur can be their dare. The franchises that succeed in the NFL are the ones willing to bet big on potential and then let that potential run wild. Shedeur Sanders could be Cleveland's version of that, the one who changes everything, the one who turns fragile belief into undeniable reality. Of course, there will be growing pains. He'll throw interceptions. He'll have games where he looks more rookie than savior. But that ceiling, that rare, sky-high ceiling, is what Cleveland has been chasing since the franchise came back in 1999. And that's why this move matters so much to the fans. It's a roller coaster. Half the fan base is terrified, half is euphoric, but all of them are glued to their screens, knowing the stakes. They've lived through heartbreak after heartbreak, through false dawns that faded into darkness, and they're desperate for something real. Shedeur Sanders represents that possibility. He has the chance not just to break the endless Browns cycle, but to redefine it, to finally deliver the quarterback Cleveland has been waiting for all along. He has the chance to be the name fans chant, the jersey kids wear, the story the league can't stop talking about. And that's why Andrew Berry's decision, risky as it is, might go down as one of the boldest moves in NFL history. Because sometimes curses aren't broken with caution. Sometimes they're broken with crowns. So the question lingers in the air like a Hail Mary spiraling toward the end zone: will Shedeur Sanders catch destiny, or will Cleveland's curse swat it down once again? One thing is certain, no matter how this ends, the Browns finally have a quarterback story worth watching. And for Cleveland, after decades of heartbreak, maybe that's the first step toward rewriting the ending. The decision still echoes like thunder across the NFL: Shedeur Sanders elevated over Dillon Gabriel. It wasn't whispered. It wasn't cautious. Andrew Berry didn't dip his toe into the water, he dove headfirst into the fire, shredding the safe script that front offices cling to like a lifeline. And in that one daring move, Cleveland transformed from a franchise defined by quarterback mediocrity into the most fascinating experiment in football. The reactions haven't stopped pouring in, and Cleveland feels split down the middle like a city perched on a fault line. One side is ecstatic, buzzing as if they've finally been handed a golden ticket after years of gray skies. The other side is terrified, clutching their hearts, bracing for the same pain they've endured for decades. That's the thing about boldness in this city, it inspires and terrifies in equal measure. Step into the locker room for a moment, because this decision isn't just about names on a depth chart. It's a message to every player in that building. Andrew Berry is saying, we're not waiting. We're not playing it safe. We're betting everything on upside. We're betting on magic. And the players feel it. They know Dillon Gabriel is solid, consistent, the guy who executes the playbook and rarely makes the wrong read. But when Shedeur Sanders steps into the huddle, the air changes. He doesn't just call the play, he commands it. He locks eyes with his teammates, and there's no hesitation, only belief. There's belief, and in football that matters more than any spreadsheet. Still, the critics can't wait to pounce. Talk shows are already spitting fire, too raw, not enough experience, Cleveland is setting him up to fail. It's the same tired refrain, skepticism fueled by the franchise's tortured past. And yes, there's logic in it. Throwing a young quarterback into the fire too early can ruin him, we've seen it countless times. But Shedeur Sanders isn't built like most quarterbacks. This is a kid who's lived under pressure since he could walk. He grew up not just in the shadow of an NFL legend but in the blinding spotlight of one. And instead of running from that glare, he thrived in it. While most rookies quake under the bright lights, Shedeur has lived in them his entire life. So when critics say he isn't ready, they miss the bigger picture. He's been preparing for this moment long before Cleveland ever called his name. Just rewind to his college career. Chaos was his classroom, collapsing pockets, defenses treating him like target practice, games that begged him to fold. But he didn't. He stayed calm, stood tall, and delivered with precision every time. Over 4,000 passing yards, a completion rate north of 70%, more than 30 touchdowns, numbers that scream composure, precision, and leadership. And Shedeur Sanders didn't put those up under perfect conditions, he delivered them in absolute mayhem. Collapsing pockets, relentless pressure, defenses scheming to rattle him, he didn't just survive, he thrived. That's not just talent, that's DNA. Now drop that DNA into Cleveland, a city that knows nothing but chaos under center, a fan base battered by heartbreak after heartbreak, and suddenly Andrew Berry's decision makes sense. This isn't only about football, it's about alignment. Shedeur and Cleveland fit because they're both built on resilience. Both know what it means to take punches and keep swinging. Both understand what it feels like to be doubted and dismissed. And here's the kicker, this move is as much about culture as it is about quarterbacking. For years, Cleveland has been haunted by an identity crisis, safe choices that led nowhere, bold experiments that imploded, an endless churn of disappointment. Elevating Shedeur isn't just naming a starter, it's planting a flag. It's Berry saying, we're done playing not to lose. We're going all in to win. A gamble bold enough to define his tenure. If it works, Andrew Berry will be remembered as the man who finally broke the curse, the architect who trusted his gut and found a crown jewel where others only saw risk. If it fails, he'll be branded just another name in Cleveland's long line of front office flops. That's the razor's edge he's walking, and the fans feel it. Cleveland doesn't do lukewarm, this city is all in or all out. Right now, the dog pound is foaming with equal parts hope and fear. On Sundays, when Shedeur Sanders steps on the field, every snap will feel like a referendum, not just on him, but on the franchise itself. Every completion a small victory, every mistake a potential disaster. But the ceiling? His is miles higher than Gabriel's. Gabriel will give you steady play. He won't lose you games, but he won't win you many either. Shedeur Sanders, though, offers something else entirely. He could deliver moments that become legend. Comebacks that live forever, pros that make jaws drop, and a swagger bold enough to redefine the Browns not just as a team, but as a brand. Because in 2025, the NFL isn't only about winning games, it's about winning narratives. Quarterbacks today are more than athletes, they're cultural icons, headline makers, jersey sellers, city galvanizers. Patrick Mahomes isn't just a quarterback, he's a phenomenon. And Shedeur has that same spark. His college numbers weren't empty stats, they were forged in chaos. Proof that he doesn't need perfection to shine. Proof that pressure doesn't crush him, it polishes him. And that's what sets him apart, because the NFL isn't clean or controlled. It's chaos, and Shedeur thrives in it. And Shedeur, he's already fluent in chaos. Dillon Gabriel thrives in structure, steady, reliable, a system quarterback who'll hit the open man and keep the chains moving. But when the pocket collapses and the game demands improvisation, that's where Gabriel's ceiling shows. Shedeur's ceiling? We don't even know it yet. That's why this move had to happen. The locker room feels it, too. Players can sense when a guy has it, and Shedeur has it in spades. This ride won't be smooth, it'll be filled with highs and lows that test the faith of every fan, every coach, every teammate. But for the first time in decades, it feels like Cleveland isn't just surviving chaos. They're embracing it. And with Shedeur Sanders under center, maybe the Browns' curse finally ends.